Thank you so much for watching this episode. In this episode, I'm going to talk about taking instant photography with these beautiful 1940s cameras. I started shooting FP100c made by Fuji. Sadly, they've stopped making that. I've now moved on to Fuji Instax. I'm going to show the difference between both and the cameras I use. So a long time ago, I bought this beautiful 3¼ by 4¼ Graflex Super D. Beautiful, beautiful camera, and I modified it so that I could take FP100c. In fact, so I could fit this Polaroid back to it. I had to make a few cuts and I had to cut out the back plates. After that, I converted it to a super reflex with all the beautiful parts from Jeff Perry at 20th Century Camera. 3D printed all these parts from him. Beautiful, amazing. But I'm now going to put it back together with its original fittings to take FP100c. So I'm going to run through that. I'm going to make the modifications to the back of this camera, and then I'm going to show you how I've done, or I'm going to show you how I fit the FP100c back into this camera again, the Polaroid back. And then I'm going to run through some of the Instax that I take. I have done some FP100c, but I mostly use my Crown Graphic for taking Instax. Fuji Instax. And recently at an exhibition in Milan, Catarina and I were exhibiting in Milan at an exhibition, and I was looking at a lot of other people's work, and they were using other old Polaroids and old FP100c. So that's why I'm converting this camera back for a special project. I've got 5 boxes of FP100c left. I'm going to convert this camera back so I can just shoot FP100c. And then I'll show you what I've done with this camera here and how I work with this camera with the Instax using the LomoGraflok back. So I'm going to make the modification to this camera now, and then I'll run into close details on how this camera works, and the difference I can do with the difference between taking FP100c and taking Instax. And I'll run through those with you because it really is worth using these old cameras to do instant photography. They really do lend themselves beautifully to doing it. So I'll make the modifications now, and then we'll come back in close up and I'll show you the details of both cameras. So here it is. This is the Graflex Super D 3¼ 4¼ back in its original state now. So I've refitted the back to it, the rotating back. The only modifications I've made is I've chamfered off this bottom edge to allow me to fit the Polaroid back, and I've remade the 2 sidebars so that I can now put in my Polaroid back and attach it with these 2 here. I just adore this camera. I absolutely love it. Obviously it's a super reflex, so it's got a focal plane shutter which does that when I take the shot, which is fantastic. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in a little bit closer now. I'm going to show you handheld how this camera works, because it really is quite special when you're doing instant photography. So that's the Polaroid back that's going to fit on it. It's going to fit straight into here. And I'm going to just show you some of the images that I've taken with this, which I just love. This was the very first photograph I ever took with this camera when I modified it to take the Polaroid back with FP100c. And I probably hadn't taken a picture for 60 years, and it took that one. I absolutely love that. This was taken using my other large camera. So that's the very large camera. This is taken with the, what one's this? This is the big camera I have made by Max. And so that's a self-portrait taken into a mirror, FP100c. And you can just see the depth of colour in these things. That's my wonderful friend Catarina, taken with FP100c. And this other gorgeous thing here. You just get a depth with this FP100c you just don't get with Instax. So I love it. So I'm going to cut now. I'm going to show you this camera handheld and how it operates, and just get an idea. And then after that I'll go onto the Crown Graphic and show you how I shoot Instax. So here it is, all ready to go, ready to take some more FP100c. Love this camera. I love this lens as well. So the lens is auto diaphragming, which just means, or the shutter mechanism is, it just means that when you're focusing, you've got wide open, but then when you actually take the shot, the lens stops down. It's so good. So then you suddenly stop down to the required setting, but then when you're ready to take your shot again or focus up again, you basically open it up again. It's just so clever. I'm going to open that shutter mechanism again as well. There you go. Love this camera, absolutely love this camera. And of course this is the 3¼ 4¼ so it's so light and so small compared to the big 5x4. So there's the new back, or the back fitted, the Polaroid back fitted. So I've remade these side parts here to enable this to fit in, and like I said, I've chamfered off the bottom there. And the beauty of this is obviously it's got the turret, which means that I can look through the top. Let's have a look through the top. You can see what I can see. There you go, and I can focus up a little bit here. There you go. The beauty of this, the real beauty of this, is that with this camera, I can have the dark slide out and I can be focusing, and then I take the shot live. I don't have to take the back off and put, or take the glass back off and then put the Polaroid back on. I can actually take the shot live. And that makes a huge difference, as you'll see when we go on to the Graflex Crown Graphic, which I'm going to shoot with the LomoGraflok back, and you don't have that freedom that you get when you're shooting with the Super D, because it's SLR and it's got a focal plane shutter. But we'll run into that in a second. But that's basically this camera all ready to go, and it's going to start doing more stuff like this again, which is what I just adore. So now I'm going to go on to the Crown Graphic. You'll see the difference, and yeah, and then I'll show you some examples at the end. So this is the beautiful, I think it's a 1955 Graflex Crown Graphic. Now I use this for my large format photography, a lot of my studio work, black and white 5.4 and color 5.4, but I also use it for shooting this Instax. It gives me the ability when I'm doing a shoot to give the model to something to take home in color. And there is something quite nice about being able to shoot color there and then we both get to see the color image come out when you're shooting a large format camera. So what I used to do is I used to physically take the actual film out of the pack, put it into a standard plate holder with little clips in the corner, take the shot, put it back in the camera afterwards and process it. But recently, or sometime a year or so ago, LomoGraflok bought this back out, which makes life a lot easier, I must say. And the fact that Instax is so cheap, or relatively cheap, it's just part of every shoot now to actually shoot quite a lot in color, just for the model and me. There's something nice about that. So the way this thing works is you have to, when you buy the actual Graflok back, or the LomoGraflok back, you get this spacer. This spacer has to go in like that. You then focus your shot as standard, and then because this isn't single lens reflex and it doesn't have a focal plane shutter, you've then got to remove this. So bearing in mind at this point your subject mustn't move, you then got to take the Graflok back off there, and you've then got to insert the actual back. You then have to turn it on, take the dart slide out, take the shot, put the dart slide back in, push the button, and then the print comes out the side. It does sound cumbersome, and there is that time between focusing and putting the back on, whereas if the model moves, you're going to be out of focus. But it works. It does work really well. And if you look at these, you can see some of these images that I've taken with this thing. It's not a substitute really for FP100c, but it is pretty good. And this stuff is reasonably cheap compared to FP100c, which you just can't get anymore. And as I say, every model that comes, they get to have some of these examples to take away with them. And you know, it's something that they always love, sort of thing. And I mean, this one's a multiple exposure as well. This one's got triple exposures as well. So it's quite fun to experiment with this stuff. So there you go. The joys of shooting Instax with a large format 1955 camera. I love it. So I'm going to show a few examples now of what I've taken with the FP100c and what I've taken with Instax. And this is how I take my instant stuff with these 1940s and 1950s cameras. And again, thank you so much for watching. I'm not sure what the next episode is going to be. Do let me know if there's anything you want to see. And I think the images should be coming in from the right hand side in a second now. Thanks again.